So I want to extend greetings. Very pleasant mornings to the members of the media who are here. Just checking to see if everyone can hear me clearly before we continue along. Right? So it seems as though we are getting good feedback. I would like to start by really inviting God's presence to this press conference by just reading a scripture, Proverbs 31 verse 8, and it says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy." Yes? So that is the scripture for the day as we start this press conference. The main theme of the press conference would be for us to really inform the general public of some issues and concerns that we have with the pension reform as proposed to start by the administration on the 1st of October. Yeah, well, before we get into it, I would like to take the opportunity on behalf of the Grenada Public Workers Union to really extend commendations to the Olympians for representing our country with distinction, right? And this goes for those who medaled and those who did not medal. Everybody gave a great account of themselves, and they really raised the nose of the nation, and so therefore the PW would like to, officially extend commendations to our fantastic Olympians who made our country proud. I said that the main purpose of the conference would be pension reform, but I'd like to start off with some positives. Yes? I'd like to start off with some positives to ensure that, everything is balanced and that all is not bad in the country. As an institution, as an organization, we, when things are good, we say they are good, and when they are not so good, we also state. And when there are concerns, we state those concerns publicly. So on the positives, we would like to say TAMCC will be receiving outstanding retroactive for the years 2023 and 2024 very, very soon. In fact, it was in the supplementary budget. So that is something that we can look forward to. The workers were clamoring for that, asking the union when it will be paid. We asked them to maintain some patience. I learned this from the TAMCC executive, which I sit on, the council, that it will be paid, and it actually was confirmed in the Parliament of Grenada. So that is some good news there. In other good news on the labor front, as far as PW is concerned, the GPC workers are permanent, right? You know that there was great battle. I wouldn't say great battle, but there was some serious friction between the union and the management and the board of the Grenada Postal Corporation. So we're happy to report that the workers are now permanent. And we received a correspondence on the 21st of June stating that the workers will be permanent as of 1st of July 2024. So the union is elated about that. The workers are happy, but it's not all done. There are issues with salaries. Yes, you can be permanent, but if your salary is way below par, where are we going? So we have to work on the salary aspect, and we also have to work on a collective bargaining agreement, which we are in the process of doing, and we are working very well with the board of directors led by Mr. Adrian Francis. So that is also some good news there. The workers at the Ministry of Education, they have been operating without air conditioning for a few weeks. And that, you can imagine, is very uncomfortable. They had permission to leave at 2 o'clock. But even in those circumstances, you can imagine that productivity will not be optimized. We spoke to the permanent secretary on the 29th of August, and he informed us that this week, what's the date today? The 2nd? The 2nd of September, by the end of the week, the air conditioning will be restored at the Ministry of Education. We also spoke to the fact of some concerns that we have in terms of how they do infrastructure and so forth, refurbishment. So what has happened in the past, and not with just this administration, but we have seen in the past where major refurbishment have to take place at different workplaces, the workers will stay there. The last issue we had that was with the Richmond home, and you have to face dust and all these sort of things which can cause respiratory problems and even diseases, right? So we stated to the PS, and he gave us full assurance that in future, if, you know, rehabilitative work has to be done, infrastructural work has to be done, it should be done where the workers are moved rather than inhaling dust and have to, you know, be in the midst of noise pollution and things of that nature. We ask that they actually are moved and then the work is done, as opposed to how it is done now for the convenience, yes, of the employer, but much to the chagrin of workers who have to face respiratory problems, some of them falling sick and things of that nature. We want that to change. So going forward, there will be protocols to ensure that when serious work is being done, that the workers are moved to a more amenable workstation. Right? So let's get into it. The first thing I'd like to quote, just to start off the foundation of where we are going, is ILO Convention 98. And it states, Article 4, measures appropriate for national conditions shall be taken where necessary to encourage and promote the full development and utilization of machinery for voluntary negotiation between employers or employers' organization and workers' organizations with a view to the regulation of terms and conditions of employment by means of collective agreements. Basically what that is saying in layman terms, when serious things have to be done in regards to the conditions workers have to operate under, the benefits and things of that nature, it should be done on at least a bilateral or tripartite basis where there is engagement between, in our case, the government and ourselves, to ensure that we as the legal bargaining agent represent the views, the interests of the workers, yeah? So that must be understood. And this is the convention for those who need to be educated on it, that is signed on to by the government of Grenada. So basically, they cannot ignore the union based on signing on to this particular convention with the International Labour Organization, right? So regarding pension reform, it's no secret. We express our position in many different forums, publicly and privately. The last public forum, I would say, was Labor Day or May Day. That's the 1st of May. Speaking on behalf of the membership, when I was given the opportunity to take the platform, the union expressed great concern with the rapidity and the aggressive implementation without consultation by the government of pension reform. So as far as we know, they state that they are going to implement the reform process on the 1st of October 2024. And I can safely say there has not been any consultation of a meaningful level apart from token consultation. This is what we're going to do. And this is very serious. So, having knowledge of this, we wrote to the DPA on the 22nd of August, right? And also copied the Cabinet Secretary. So in essence, the Cabinet should be aware of our position in written format. And what we express concerning the pension reform and why we are not aligned to it at this particular time is, one, the low rate of regularization has demoralized our public service. We would like to see a greater number of our members regularized before we initiate pension reform, right? And just for information's sake, in terms of regularization, the union wrote to the DPA and by extension the government of Grenada on the 25th of June asking for the numbers, because when we interact on the ground, what we hear, Brother Grimes, we are not seeing any regularization. We are not feeling it. It's not coming our way. So the numbers that are spoken about, let's say 300 before December of 2023, it has not materialized. So this is what our members are telling us. So as a responsible organization, we have to listen to our members, but we also have to get the facts. So even though we are confident that our members are telling us the truth, we still reached out to the DPA via correspondence in June to say, well, give us the numbers. You say it's taken place, let's see what it is. To date, we have not gotten a response. So regularization is a serious problem, and I'll get into it a little bit later on in the press conference as how it relates to other sectors or sectors within our bargaining unit, such as the health sector, right? We also expressed in that correspondence that the PWU is proposing a pay and grade review before the implementation of the pension reform as what was done in the Turks and Caicos. So the Turks and Caicos was basically used because in the document that the government submitted to the union, Turks and Caicos was basically the template spoken to as to how they are going to go about doing it. But guess what? Turks and Caicos ensured that the workers who have to undergo pension reform, their salaries were adjusted, right? Through a pay and grade review. And that can be understood because, for example, within our bargaining unit, we have some unestablished workers that will have to, based on their proposal, fall to pension reform. At least 981 members, right? And those 981 members, their average salary is about $1,500. So imagine you have to, apart from the cost of living, NIS increases and so forth, now have to pay 3% of your salary. So that's disposable income gone. So in Turks and Caicos, they are aware of these things, and they did a across the board pay and grade review for all who will be affected, not just for the lower end unestablished workers as what I'm speaking about. So we wrote and spoke to the authorities and said, please consider this before this rapid implementation on October 1st, devoid of consultation, right? In the same document, we saw, to our surprise, that the retirement age is 65 in the public service. Now, let me be clear on this. The National Insurance Scheme new retirement age is heading fastly to 65. I think it's 62 now. Am I correct? I stand to be corrected on that figure. But ultimately, it is going to be 65 based on the law. Now, I want to make it clear. In the public service, the age of retirement is 60 based on Cap 233, which is the Pension Act. In fact, based on certain circumstances, one can retire at 55 once you meet certain, certain conditions, right? You can retire at 55. So as early as 55, as late as 60. There was no, I don't know if they reached out to Mr. David. Did they reach out to you? Right. There was no consultation with our organization about this, with our executive about this. But in the document, it is boldly stated that the retirement age is 65. Now, this is of concern going back to the convention of ILO Convention 98, where we speak about collective bargaining. You can't just impose this on us, whether or not we may agree. This is something that's supposed to be discussed. And we see a trend happening here with this, and I must confess that I did not take it on too seriously when the trend started to develop. So for example, the government on its own decided, hey, we're going to give nurses $500 without coming through the legal bargaining agent, which is the Public Workers Union. I said I'm happy for the members. Even though my other counterparts said to me, Brother Grimes, this is not the proper way, I did not make a fuss about it. I thought it was a one-off situation. But we have seen an inch has been taken a yard, and it's a mile now at this point in time, and it's going on, whereby they are basically leapfrogging the legal process of engaging the Grenada Public Workers Union on matters related to its workers, right? So this is fundamentally wrong. Yeah, so we saw in the document 65 as the retirement age, and this is controversial because some workers may like it and others definitely may not, right? So they need to come to us to discuss the rudiments of this particular policy decision. And this is something that must go through Parliament and so forth. Right? On this issue also, keep in mind that in March of 2022, we got a judgment about the pension, right? And then it was paid in November, I believe, year of 2022. So basically, workers have enjoyed kind of close to 2 years pension being restored. Yeah? And now we are speaking to the reality that after 38 years, right, of fighting in the wilderness to ensure that the Pension Disqualification Act was firmly and comprehensively struck down, we are seeing pension reform now. So the workers didn't even get a chance to enjoy it much, right? The restoration. So now we're talking about the reform where you have to pay a contributory scheme. So yes, we understand all what the government is saying about sustainability and so forth, but let's do it right. Let's have social dialogue on this matter. Let's ensure that the reform is mutually beneficial. If it has to happen between the workers, it's beneficial for the workers and beneficial for the employer. Let's ensure there's a mutual beneficial grounds. Now, why this is so important, that case was a constitutional matter. You don't just make arbitrary changes to constitutional matters, because the new entrants in the public service going forward will have to be subject to this. But the court ruling was for all public officers, current and future. So you don't just make ad hoc decisions like that. So this is a very, very serious matter. A matter I did not conceptualize, but a member of my team spoke of it, was the fact that this new pension reform scheme, a board of directors will be adjudicated over it, rather than with the system as it is now. It comes directly from the consolidated fund, and there is a level of comfort in terms of, no corruption, in terms of surety that all will be well when it's the time for retirement comes. Now, when you have a board adjudicated, the board has a life of 3 years, then it changes and so forth, and then you have different personalities, possibly different agendas and so forth regarding that, and things can happen. And this is not just an arbitrary, imaginative thought that I'm coming up with, right, or that we are coming up with. Look at what happened with the Seamen Waterfront Workers Union with CLECO, right? They invested there, and all of a sudden when these guys had to come to retirement, hundreds of thousands of dollars, collectively millions of dollars were gone, and people fell into depression and people died without a proper pension. So we have to be careful with these things. So I gave you a number of things to consider here. There is more, but I would not bore you with the details. The government is aware of it, and we are a bit taken aback, and I would say borderline appalled by the approach, because we have stated, slow down, involve us. We have stated it publicly, we have stated it privately, and after May, a decision was further taken, hey, October, this is going to happen. So this is very disrespectful to our organization. I want to put it on record, we as a union will use all legitimate and legal means to ensure that this organization is respected and that the rights and benefits of our membership is protected. We shall do that. I just want to place it on record. Our first thing is to come on the table and let's discuss and do it as peaceful as possible. But in the absence of it, and the absence is not due to the unwillingness of our union, if that is absent, we'll have to use alternative means to ensure the rights, the constitutional rights of our members and other rights is protected, right? So I want to move on from pension reform to go on to regularization. This is a big one, huh? This is a big one. We are seeing that the regularization is not happening at the rate that was promised, and it is really demoralizing our workforce. Keep in mind, the National Democratic Congress administration government is currently in the corridors of power. And to get there, they made a social contract with public officers. They stated openly that we're going to make you permanent in short order, right? So the public service, a lot of unestablished workers, a lot of workers who were on contract and so forth, came out in numbers to support them to ensure that they got in there to fulfill that social contract. So now that they're in there, it is a different story. And I'll tell you what, a lot of workers are disappointed with that sad, very sad reality, right? So again, we tried to do things in a professional way. So we wrote to the DP on the 25th of June of this year. We wrote before on matters, but that's the latest correspondence, asking for the regularization numbers, right? Because what is being said on the ground is different to what is being stated on platforms. To date, we have not gotten a response. I want to go further to this and tie this in with the health care system. So on the 11th of June, in 2024, we met with Honorable Philip Telesford, the Minister of Health, to express some of our concerns with the state of healthcare as is shared with a good majority of the population of this country. Minister Telesford, he looked me in the eye, and members of my delegation, in the presence of members of his own delegation, and stated, I have sanctioned, as Minister of Health, the process of regularization. This is cabinet sanction. This is what was stated to us, and we have witness to this, right? Because I inquired, I said, Minister, look, it has been reported based on what the direction the government is going, potential statutorization and so forth, you are not regularizing based on a cost factor to the government of Grenada. He said, no, this is not true. Regularization is on. He looked me in the eye. And I want to give the Honorable Philip Telesford, the Minister of Health, some credit, because at least he met with the union. The previous Minister of Health, 18 months he was the Minister of Health, and he did not meet with us once, despite many pleas. So we tip our hat for that engagement, right? But the talk is not matching what is happening on the ground. So how should I say this? It is a bit puzzling. It's a bit puzzling to understand the policy regarding healthcare in this country. Because, again, there was a social contract with the people of Grenada, not just with the Grenada Public Workers Union, to improve healthcare. And how do you improve healthcare? Not by building infrastructure. So we hear a lot of talk about, okay, a new hospital is going to go down in Calavini or wherever it is. In the meantime, the hospital is crashing and burning while that thought is in the air. When will that happen? People are going up there, they are not getting, reportedly, the best of service. And this is not as a result of members of our organization being negligent. Let me just say this to you. In good times and in proper times, proper protocol, the nurse to patient ratio, for example, it's supposed to be 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 nurse to 6 patients at the most. At times in Grenada, based on the shortage of staff, it's 1 nurse have to take care of 30 patients. The staff is very, very stretched. And if the staff is stretched, guess what? When you come for service, you may not get it as readily as you want. And this goes further from the nurses onto the cadre of doctors that we have. So we are saying to the government, and I respectfully want to look into the camera and advise the government of Grenada with the greatest respect. To fix health care, it starts with the human resource. To fix health care, it starts with the human resource. You need the people, the workers, the skilled workers, because you have to train to be a doctor, you have to train to be a nurse, you have to train to be a health sector worker. You need these people there to deliver the service. If you have the poshest hospital and all the equipment, if the people are not there, if the people are not satisfied with their employment status, it doesn't make sense. So what's happening over the years? We have seen exit reports or heard of it at the very least. And the workers who are leaving to go to other countries, what they are saying is that, look, we want job security. And we are seeing regularization in other places. We are so happy for our comrades and brothers and sisters in the teaching fraternity. The health sector was a sector that was supposed to be honed in on. What is the issue? What is going on? This is confusing. We need to understand what is the policy of government. We need a cogent policy as far as what is happening with the health sector. We need for our workers, our members to be regularized to ensure that they stay, that they are comfortable, that they have the best benefits and working conditions. So some might say within the corridors of power, within the administration, I'm just, this is just subjective thinking. Let's forget about this. Let them go. Guess what? Guess what? When you bring in workers, if you import these workers, for example, nurses, you have to pay them more than the locals. Those who come in, you think they're working for the same salary as the local nurses? They want more. They want housing. They want extra benefits. So actually, it will be a greater cost to the state. This is why we are confused as to the policy direction of the administration. Then sometimes if you import the nurses, there's a language barrier. Some of them can't speak English. Let me tell you, in terms of delivering healthcare, understanding what somebody's complaint is very, very important. So we are just saying, to round it up, human resource is the key. Please regularize the members. Please, to honor the social contract that you made with the people of Grenada. I digress. And this is also important. The last thing I want to speak on officially, fringe benefits. So, in June of 2023, the latter part of June, we signed on to a fringe benefits agreement. Yes, I'm sure everybody remember that. The executive and myself were extremely happy with that because it's been a long time since we signed on to a fringe benefits agreement. I think all parties, including government, was elated. But we have seen that the fringe benefits, a lot of it is just on paper. Some have been enacted, but critical ones have not been enacted and implemented for whatever reason. And one of them is the survivor's benefit. And it says, that's Article 6, when a public servant dies in the course of employment, the surviving dependent, spouse or child under the age of 18, shall be entitled to the basic monthly salary of the deceased for a period of 1 year from the death, subject to the following conditions. And there are some certain conditions. I'll just go through a couple, right? 1, the benefit shall be paid to the surviving spouse or designated head of the household, henceforth called the beneficiary. And then there's another one. where the beneficiary, being the surviving spouse, is between the age of 18 and 49, the government shall pay 100% of the basic salary. And it goes on and on with further things, which I will not bore you at this particular time. But the fact is, it has not been implemented. Since that time we have signed that agreement, at least 5 of our members have transitioned. They have passed away. At least 5. And we have a signed agreement here that is not being honored. We have a treaty that is not being respected. And we spoke about it. We gave a lot of time before we come out, right, to speak about this. But over a year has passed. We are calling on the government of Grenada to fix this, because this is in black and white, right? This must be honored. We don't want to have to use alternative measures to ensure that our members get their benefits. We want to have a very, very peaceful industrial relations climate, but the lack of implementation of our fringe benefit CBA, some parts of it, it's happening too long. And we ask for the immediate remedial action to be taken by the powers that be to fix this, right? So this is what we're requesting. So those basically are the things that we want to express and bring forward to the public as far as what is going on with our union. I stated some positives, but the pension reform, if we don't get to the table and have social dialogue, I envision that there will be serious conflict, because I'm putting it on record. We will not, as an organization, be run roughshod over in a matter as serious and as long-term as pension reform, where it will affect future generations of our membership. We need to be involved in the process, yeah? And of course, regularization, it has clearly been an underperformance in terms of the declarations made publicly, and it has affected the public service, the morale in general. Recently, just as recent as a week ago, workers from the Ministry of Finance came to our doors, and they were contemplating industrial action based on the frustration. People were close to tears in regards to their expectations not being fulfilled. So, for example, you have workers that are being told, hey, you need to get a degree to get confirmed, but they're performing it for 10, 15 years adequately. And then the powers that be bring in people, right? They bring them in with their degree, and having a degree is good, yes. They bring them in and they tell the others, you have to train them. And then the others that they train, they get a bigger salary than them. How do you expect for the morale of these workers to be kept up? They will be demoralized. And I was a bit taken aback, because generally the Ministry of Finance is a place where the workers tend to be a little bit isolated from the union a little bit, right? But they reached out because they are the wit's end. Where is the regularization as promised? And of course, just to deviate from that a little bit, I spoke about the regularization with the health sector, and we see which direction the health sector is taken based on the lack of human resource personnel. We believe the key to fixing healthcare is through the improvement of the human resource, and that is in terms of numbers, both quantity and quality. Yes? So I rest here, and I will open the floor for questions. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the regularization of voters,
Mm-hmm.
because have government ever, you say that you asked for the numbers and not the clearly. After June, have you reached back to Public Service Commission to find out why you're not after them?
Oh yes. In fact, I'm happy you asked that question in that context, because to be honest, there are two institutions that are deeply involved in the regularization process: the Public Service Commission and the Department of Public Administration. Generally, we deal directly with the Department of Public Administration. and we had a meeting in August of this year expressing our concerns about this also. So yes, it's continuous. We keep reaching out. We keep reaching out. And again, since the 25th of June, we sent correspondence asking where are the numbers, but we haven't gotten it yet. But what we have gotten is the members saying, Brother Grimes, nothing is happening. At least one can say on their end, well, something is happening where you have trickles of regularization here and there, but nothing close to the extent of what was promised. And that's not fair to us, because we see that in certain sectors, and we're happy for the other sectors, that we see in the regularization. But what happened to the Public Workers Union? Why is our union getting the short end of the stick here? Why is the health sector not, the workers not being regularized? Why?
You spoke about government basically making decisions that need to be first, you need to have first consultation with the union before these decisions are made, including you said previously, $500 given to those in the health sector.
Yeah.
Have you yourself reached out to the government about that issue? And did they respond?
We have reached out on every issue that has been brought before the general public. There has been correspondence, either written or verbal, as it relates to these matters. Yes, so we are a very responsible organization. So we always ensure that there is engagement before we go public on anything. And I just want people to understand, because I know there will be some saying certain things. This is not about Brian Grimes. This is about the principle and the institution of the Grenada Public Workers Union. So if you sat in this chair as president, right, you would be saying the same thing, because you have to look out for the institution, right? So it's not about the government engaging Brian Grimes. It's engaging the legal constitutional body set up to represent public officers. And I don't know if it is because a good bit of the current administration have private sector backgrounds, if the thought and the process of the bureaucracy, so to speak, of engaging a union is problematic. I don't know. But that is the reality. That is what the International Labour Organization, right, a branch of the United Nations, is saying. This is how it's supposed to be. The government of Grenada, past government of Grenada administration have signed on. In fact, I think it was 1979, to the convention, 98. If you have to make any changes, you have to engage the union in question. So this is just the law, right? And we hope that those in the authority see it fit to respect the law.
So are you saying that what they're doing right now is just making decisions that expect the union to agree with no consultation?
Facts, yes.
Let's talk about GBC.
Mhm.
It's a law. It's been a while.
Mhm.
From what you were saying, I think I'm gathering that this is a case where the government is saying, okay, if you do not have a degree, right? If you do not have a degree, is this something that is hindering, that you're seeing as hindering the regularization process?
Mhm.
In terms of the case,
Mhm.
what you're saying is that people are saying to you,
Mhm.
that, okay, so you don't have a degree, so now here, we're gonna bring in someone with a degree, and leave the person without a degree, you now have to change that. So is this a possibility?
All right, so what I want to say generally, without going into your very technical question, generally, the regularization process is operating at snail pace, right? Generally. Now, to your question, let me ask you, let me place back a question to you. If you have been doing a job, let's say at your media house, you're great at your job, you have been awarded for your job, and all of a sudden, your boss says to you, you need a degree to do the job, but you're the best at it. You don't have the degree. Then they bring in somebody with a degree, and everything that happens in that workspace, you have to teach the person. Would you deem that as fair?
Oh, no, I wouldn't do it as fair. That's why I'm asking. You see this as one of the major roadblocks in
Yeah.
terms of the steel space of the organization?
I can't say what is causing the roadblocks from government's end. All I'm just speaking to is really the experience of workers. They are the ones that are elected, and they are the ones that made the grand promises and signed that social contract with the people and the workers of Grenada that they would move in a particular direction in a particular time. So we as the bargaining agent, we are just doing our jobs in speaking to the fact that it is not happening at that pace they're stating. And if they were doing a good job, we would also use the platform to state, yes, things are happening.
While we understand, while I understand what's happening,
Hmm. Yeah.
question is, when workers are being told you need to have a degree to do your job in order for you to be, let's say, placed prominent in that position, are they given time to get that degree, for example? Or is persons just sent and say, well, okay, let's get a degree, and then by the end of the week or 2 weeks or a month from now, they just see somebody come to them with a degree?
What we are saying as an organization, if this system is fair, if somebody has gotten decent performance appraisals, they have done the job. It should not be, and I want to repeat, it should not be a problem to confirm them. An employer or the administration can say, let's grandfather them into that post. But going forward, right, a person who has that post needs to have a degree. But it's unfair to somebody working 10, 15 years in a position. You mandate that. Yeah? We even hearing, well, I don't want to go into too much of hearsay. I like to deal with facts. When the time comes, we'll speak on that. But I think that particular policy, while we believe in the professionalization of the public service, we have to go about it in a fair manner. And that way is not the fairest way. So we're talking about degrees and getting degrees and so forth. That's another dimension. The fact is, regularization is just happening at a snail pace. And it's mysterious. It's shrouded in mystery as to why. Why is it at a snail pace? Why have you stated as an administration, the healthcare system will be our number one priority, right? Coming in, that social contract I spoke about. And when it's said and done, human resource is the biggest problem. And you have not addressed it in a meaningful way. That's the $1 million question.
I have a question on UGC.
Yes.
The workers are now prominent.
Yes.
How many of them are working?
About approximately 80 workers, I would say, or more. It could be more than that. More. Yeah, over 80 workers at the GPC.
Okay, and UGC is a statutory body.
Yes, it is.
So they study all the
Yeah. So with that, I speak about GPC, but they have a ministry that oversees them, and that's the Ministry of Infrastructure, where the Prime Minister is the head of that ministry. So in speaking to that, I have to, extend kudos to that ministry, because nothing can happen without the approval of the ministry. Yeah. So yes, in excess of 80 workers got the letter to say, well, yes, you're permanent, but we are not anywhere close because their salaries are very small. So we have to negotiate the salaries. We have to negotiate the CBA, and we have at this point a very good rapport with the board of directors headed by Adrian Francis, who happens to be a former president of this organization, the PWU. So the rapport is good. We are trying our best to meet on mutually beneficial grounds so that both parties benefit, because we are interested in the long-term sustainability of the GPC as well, definitely, as well as to protect and enhance the interests of the workers that we represent. Yeah?
So you guys have met already to start the
Of course.
bargaining?
Several times. Yeah, several times. So now we await a document, a job evaluation document, which was due in March of this year, and we in September now, We have exercised some patience, but we expect by the middle of this month we receive it, and that should accelerate the collective bargaining process.
And there's some pension reform. I know you expressed the contention in regards to consultations and so
Mhm.
ahead of implementation come October
First.
1st. I mean, what sort of contribution do I mean? We're only a month away, some weeks away from the actual implementation. At this time, what sort of contribution can the public workers union make? I know you expressed the concerns regarding, the implementation and the additional 8% that the workers will have to pay to contribute to it. It's a contributory pension plan. At this point, are we trying to push that implementation so that the these concerns can be taken into consideration, or what exactly are you hoping?
Right. So you must have noticed that I did not state that pension reform was the worst and we'll never accept it. You must have noticed that. We are saying that it's being implemented too fast at the disadvantage of our members. We have flagged a number of things in the document that needs to be addressed and negotiated. And October 1st, in our view, is an unrealistic implementation date if it's done where both parties are seriously involved. And again, we will do all within our power legitimately to ensure that our members' rights are respected. We will do everything in our power legitimately to do that.
It seems that we're seeing a common issue here between a gap between government and the union.
Mhm.
Based on what we understand, and it seems to be communication. Because we're not just talking about regularization, the issues faced by the union when it comes to regularization and pension, but even when decisions are being made that would relate to impacting the workers, it seems that there's a gap there where the line of communication is breached. Is that what we understanding from your end? And how do you think that can be fixed?
Well, Rena, there's a reason why you're a top-notch reporter, because you have figured it out without me having to say that directly. So we have the nurses, they just went along, they give them $500. The bargaining agent for the nurses were never consulted, say, hey, guys, we want to do this, what do you think? They went ahead. I didn't make a fuss. My counterparts in the trade union council and so forth say, Brother Grimes, come on, this is not right. This is breaking all protocols and things of that nature. Well, my members benefiting. I left it there. Then they leapfrog the union again and give the doctors $1,000. And they promise them, these things won't be taxed. Eventually they tax it. Then, we're talking about pension reform. We publicly stated we need more engagement. We privately stated we need more engagement. And despite that, they are still pushing ahead. I don't know what else to say. Right? There is a common thread that they keep overlooking the union. And again, this is not about Brian Grimes. This is the principle of collective bargaining and honoring the protocols that they would have signed on to with the ILO. Right? And this is not good. This is not good at all. Right? So yeah, some can say you're not seeing the union on the streets and so forth. You ain't seeing them in the media so much. You ain't seeing them marching. All is well. Yes, we are just trying to maintain our patience, and we are trying to do all in our power to maintain a good industrial relations climate. But we really calling on the government of Grenada to engage us more. Irrespective, I don't know what their feelings are about it. I don't know if they figure whether it's a time issue, time consumption issue. I don't know if they don't like unions. I don't know what the issue. You have to ask them. But the end product is that we are being overlooked when it comes to decision making. And we would like that to change. MTV? Anything? All right, so I just want to close by thanking all viewers and listeners for tuning in, and definitely the media for being the usual great partner with the union in coming out and listening to our side of the story, and by extension, assisting the working class in securing justice and so forth. Yeah, as a union, I just want to make the general public know and understand that we are all about social dialogue, we are all about engagement, and we are all about maintaining a decent industrial relations climate. However, we will not sacrifice the rights of our workers just to have those things. We will do whatever is possible to fulfill our mandate in protecting and enhancing our members' rights. So thank you very much, and bless rest of the day to all, one and all. Thank you.